day, unless Pelosi puts the delay on. But for those who thought that there was progress being made to cajole Joe Manchin into supporting this deal that the Socialist Spice Girls had set up, you get your $1.2 trillion Green New Deal as soon as we get the $3.5 to $5 trillion reconciliation piece. Well, that's not what Manchin was saying yesterday.
No, listen, we're not. We haven't been negotiating yet in good faith. No one's been negotiating along those lines with the other party to see what would be acceptable. So all we need to do is pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill, sit down and start negotiating in good faith. That's it.
Senator, progressives feel, though, you're not dealing in good faith. They felt that there was a deal made before.
I never knew about that. Never heard of it.
So you were never part of a deal that linked the two bills together?
About two of them are going to be together?
Yeah.
Why do you think we work so hard to separate them?
Is it possible?
No, it's not possible.
To get a framework by tomorrow.
No, it's not possible.
Not possible to get any framework.
What's possible is sit down and have good, frank negotiations.
I love the DC press corps. Is it possible to get a framework by tomorrow? You're so cute. Do you even know what you're talking about? Framework. These words that you use that you don't have any idea what they mean. Apparently, Joe Manchin doesn't understand that the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill costs zero.
Oh, that's right.
He hasn't heard. Maybe if Biden or Psaki would explain to him how it costs zero, or some of their economic flacks that appear routinely on CNN, maybe that would help. For more on this, pleased to be joined by David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of the soon-to-be-released Eurotrash, Why America Must Reject the Failed Ideas of a Dying Continent. Well, that's really targeted at about half the population that happens to be in control of the White House and Congress at present. David Harsanyi, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So, what's your perspective on how this passion play of the socialist resolves itself?
Well, I went through Obamacare where every week I thought it was dead and then it was not. So I'm very concerned still, of course, but I'm happy to hear what Manchin said yesterday. I mean, he didn't sound like a guy who was going to use reconciliation to change the fabric of a cultural fabric of America and the way we govern. And Sinema doesn't speak as much, but it seems to me like she doesn't want to do this either. So obviously, I'm happy about that, but I'm still concerned. I always am. I think Manchin is not a reliable person when it comes to these sorts of things. He folds quite often, and he can be bought.
Well, the other thing too is you could have, despite all of their overheated rhetoric, you could have the Socialist Caucus within the Socialist Party. You could have some of them fold too and cover it with AOC's crocodile tears, like they did with the Iron Dome funding. I mean, if they really are going to hold firm in the Senate, do you want to get absolutely nothing? Is going to be a question for Jayapal and AOC and Omar and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that the progressives stand strong and kill the infrastructure bill. I think that it's a matter of principle at this point, and important for democracy that they kill it. And because I don't know why Republicans back that. Essentially, they just helped lower the tab on the bigger bill. It should never have been done in this way. But from what Manchin says, and clearly it's true, there was never a deal that they should be connected. They actually worked to separate those things. So. Hopefully they both go down, but as long as the $3.5 trillion bill goes down, I think I'm okay.
Do you marvel at the rhetoric you've heard this week from Biden administration flacks about how this costs zero, and the idea that if you increase taxes on a company, the company would pass that on to their customers is absurd? And improper from like Psaki? I mean, do you marvel at it, or are you just so jaded now that you expect it?
It's an idiocracy. It is the most juvenile talking point I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I just don't think that there's ever been a talking point out of a presidency in modern times, at least, that is that stupid. And no one believes it. Not the people who say it, not the people who hear it. I mean, it is just insane to say that something doesn't cost money simply because you can pay for it, which itself is a lie, of course. And, And then, this kind of emotionalism where you say, companies are going to be really bad if they pass through costs. Every dollar the company collects comes from consumers, every dollar. And, this is just another way to tax people, incidentally, who make under $400,000 a year, which breaks Biden's pledge. But, it's just incredibly stupid. And that anyone would say it just speaks poorly of where we are in where our government is.
So who's lying? Because this week the Senate Armed Services Committee has been meeting. Of course, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, and others have been testifying. Some said we wanted to leave 2,500 troops there. Biden wasn't aware of that. Is it willful neglect? Is it that he's old and possibly senile, or is he lying to us?
I don't think we have to choose one or the other. I think it's probably both, or a little bit of both. I don't know why anyone would think Joe Biden would be competent at this job. He's never been really competent at any of the jobs he's taken. Yeah. I always love when he says, I promise you as a Biden, like he's not constantly been lying over the last 40 years. Yeah.
The family name, I hope.
Hey, you have the Biden stamp, good housekeeping seal on this one, brother.
Yeah.
You're right. That's great.
Insane. Yeah. But, it was a debacle. And of course, we've moved on. I mean, there's hundreds of Americans probably still stranded there because of incompetence. And, now he's into this, class warfare stuff that seems to work. And the media has moved on, so it's a sad thing. I think he's lying, and I think he was incompetent.
Well, okay. But no, David, don't tell me that Bob Woodward is a liar, because please don't. Because General Milley, on those two calls in question that made so much news, the excerpts from his latest book, Milley right before the election and then right after January 6th to the Chinese general, what Milley presented to the Senate this week was, hey, look, I actually did, different than how it's characterized, I did go through the chain of command. Here's who was on the call. Here's the process I used to set up the call. Here's who was on the call. I read the call out after the call. I had no belief that Trump was going to invade China. That wasn't what it was about. So what Milley said before the Senate and what Woodward reported per the excerpt, those two things are mutually exclusive. So somebody's not telling the truth.
Right. I mean, I read Peril by Woodward, and the prologue in another chapter is all about this incident, and he is frantic. Milley is frantic. He believes that Donald Trump's lost it and he may attack China just to say that. I don't even really understand what that's all about, in the sense that I think that Trump, for all his faults, was actually quite judicious with use of military force. But anyway, so all of that. And so it's clearly, when you read the book, it feels like Milley is leaking this stuff. I mean, where else could all of this come from? It could only come from one person, but fine. It can't both be true. It can't be true what he told the Senate and the Woodward. One of those two are not true. And it seems to me that either Milley wanted to, gave this, is sort of playing to Woodward and it just went over the top, or not. But if it's true what's in Woodward's book, I think you have a general who did something that was, honestly, I don't know what word to use. I don't want to say, treacherous, but it is, he decided he wasn't going to abide by the chain of command, and he undermined the civilian control of the military. I think it's just something that should be investigated.
Well, I agree, but I mean, the difference here is Woodward has anonymous sources, and Milley says, I went to Secretary of Defense Esper. Here's the, there were 7 people on the call. So what he's saying, what he said before the Senate this week, is easily verifiable or refuted.
Right. But Chris Miller said that he never gave permission. I think it was the second call, right? I don't know. I mean, I guess you have to trust the general speaking in front of the Senate under oath. But then, why doesn't he? Then he claimed he didn't read Woodward's book. I don't know. It just felt like he tried to play it both ways.
Well,
I don't know what the truth is.
He was too busy reading Ibram Kendi's latest kids book. So he'll get to Woodward.
I mean, the guy should be fired for incompetence relating to many things, especially Afghanistan.
Yes.
And so I don't understand why no one paid a price there. No one has been. The only guy fired from the military was that person who spoke up on YouTube. I forget his name.
Yeah, right.
No one was fired for that debacle. So,
and they never even brought up the fatal drone strike that killed 7 innocent children. Anybody going to lose their job for that
Well,
one?
10 innocent.
And the ISIS-K guy who was supposed to be killed, like, wow, America probably really does have fake news because they're saying that I'm dead and I'm not dead.
I mean, if I hate saying this, I hate this formulation, but if Trump had done that, it would still be, the top of the news. It would be a massive scandal. I mean, that was performative, right? We just wanted to blow something up, and he blew up a family. And no one is even talking about it.
And the kids' pictures would have been splashed all over the media, and they weren't.
Oh yeah.
Well, and also too, something you mentioned a minute ago, which is the reporting that has just dissipated on. Okay, what Americans, legal permanent residents, Afghan allies, SIV holders, how many are left? Where are they? What's their status? What's their fate? Is anybody communicating with anybody? Or we've just all moved on, and whoever's left behind, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, you mentioned something before that ties into this. Now, this is where we can use some journalism. This is something we can't find out. We need journalists to do it. Whereas we don't need journalists pressing Manchin to pass massive, socialistic bills, right? But yet that's what they're doing. They're constantly the default position they have is that this is something that needs to pass, and how can we make it work? Well, why does it have to pass? We don't have to pass anything. We don't need to pass that bill. There's no most Americans don't even know what's in that bill. We've never really had a national debate about it. It's just something Democrats want to do through reconciliation, and it's unprecedented. There's never been a reform bill passed of that size that didn't garner at least 68, 70 votes. I'm sorry, there's never been a bill that size. But what I mean is any kind of big reform. And they simply circumvent all of that and just want to cram it through with the slimmest majority possible. And it's just unprecedented.
And who are these people? This is the Biden agenda, is what Jayapal has to say to Manchin's obstinance. This journal piece on President Biden's nomination to be comptroller of the currency. She's a Cornell University law professor named Soleil Amarova, who graduated from Moscow State University on the Lenin Personal Academic Scholarship 35 years ago. So Moscow State to Cornell. I'm sure she didn't recognize any differences. And she believes the American economic system, the monetary side, should be made in the image of Gosbank. She said this, I never claimed women and men were treated absolutely equal in every facet of Soviet life, but people's salaries were set by the state in a gender-blind manner. Say what you want about the USSR, David, equal pay for equal work over there.
Well, at least we know the Lenin economic program is probably a little less liberal than the Columbia or Harvard schools, right?
Come on, who are these people?
I mean, they're just skipping the part where that people pretend to be anything else, right? I mean, it's sometimes I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, am I overreacting to all these things? But I mean, I just don't know. I'm not saying that Biden is a communist or anything like that, but this is a clear road towards socialism, at least such a massive welfare state that the government essentially, honestly, it's a little more fascistic than socialistic in reality, but it's just having big companies on board and passing these massive spending bills that will destroy capitalism as we know it. I'm not saying it's the end of America. I'm not trying to, be, saying, this apocalypse is upon us, but it is definitely a dangerous time.
Well, Miss Amarova would like it to be the end of America, apparently, because she thinks that state set salaries that are gender neutral in her, from her perspective, more important than, say, the private property. It's just these statements, like this week from Psaki, are just stunning to me. And I don't know. I guess people just see this as all cant or hear it as all cant, and they just tune out. I don't know, but I agree with you. This is down a road to fascism, beyond the road to serfdom, to fascism formally. David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of the soon-to-be-released Eurotrash, Why America Must Reject the Failed Ideas of a Dying Continent. That's coming out the end of next month, so pre-order it now. Eurotrash, David Harsanyi. Thanks so much for joining us again, David. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Small business owners have a problem. We're so busy running our companies and so stuck in the day-to-day that we don't have time to bring our dreams to their full potential. As a business owner myself,